So without further ado, let's introduce you to Bob Stolak. Welcome, Bob.
Hi, Miriam. Thanks for having me today.
Of course, of course. So tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay. So, as you mentioned before, I'm originally from the garden spot of the world, Brooklyn, USA, and I've lived in South Florida since 1985. And I've been a licensed insurance agent where I'm the president of the senior circuit group since 1996. And that's what I've been doing with my career, yes.
Okay. And so tell us, we're going to be learning about life settlements
Yes,
today.
yes.
Now, what is life settlements?
Okay. So recently, I'm going to answer that question for you, but recently I've partnered with a firm that has collectively closed $4 million of death benefit for life settlements with 20 years of experience in doing this. So in saying that, $120 billion a year is either lapsed or surrendered by senior citizens each and every year. And people, they were looking at an alternative for that. So a life settlement is a sale of an existing, unwanted, unneeded, or unaffordable life insurance policy by a person generally 65 years of age or older. And generally, the client, when they do this sale, receives 6 to 8 times the amount that they would have received if they lapsed or surrendered the policy.
Wow. Okay, that's good. Honestly, I didn't even know. I kind of heard about it, but I've never really known how it works.
Right. And also, just to add, the older and more impaired the person's health is since the inception of the policy actually will drive up the price for the insured.
Okay. How did you get started in life settlements?
As I mentioned, I've been a licensed agent, Miriam, for the past 27 years. And around 2 years ago, a client of mine, an existing client of mine, who had sold a life policy to, it was actually 2 policies that totaled $1.5 million worth of face amount. He's an attorney. Now, 7 years hence, he's retiring. So his premium on this policy was $46,000 a year, and it was a bit of a stretch for him to make that premium payment in his retirement. So he called me and asked what he could do. So we took a look at perhaps reducing the death benefit, as well as, maybe even surrendering or lapsing the policy. Well, he had 0 cash surrender value in the policy, so that certainly wasn't, a great option for him. So we took a look at a life settlement scenario. And I wasn't well versed in the business at the time, and I got together with someone who had been soliciting me, over the years, and he worked on the program with us. It was sort of slow walked. It wasn't really transparent. He finally came through with an offer from a very popular company that we see on TV all the time for $50,000 for this gentleman's policy.
Wow.
My client, although he wasn't happy with it, was considering it because $50,000 is better than 0.
Right.
Okay? About the same time, I received an email from a company called Evergreen Settlements, and I figured we'd give them a chance. I spoke to my client, we gave them a chance. They came within a matter of weeks through their proprietary system that they have there. They came with 11 to 12 different bids on the policy,
Wow.
and he wound up selling the policy for a gross offer of $488,000. So this caught my attention very much so.
Wow,
Right.
that's amazing.
Right.
Okay, so now how do you qualify for a life settlement?
Okay. So to qualify for a life settlement, generally you have to be 65 years of age or older. And also, if your health is impaired since you took the policy out, where you could have been preferred or standard when you first took the policy out, now you could be a rated, policyholder or become uninsurable even. So that will help enhance the price that you would get for the policy here. So the older you are and sort of the sicker you are, you get more money for the policy. But what's interesting about this is that what I'm finding, most people don't even know this exists. They don't know they have an option for this here. Because as we mentioned before, 120 billion or lapses surrendered.
It's a lot.
90% of the people don't even know this exists because they certainly would take a look at this. And we have a way that they could take a look at this at no cost or obligation to them to find out what this policy, this hidden asset is worth.
Okay, so the appraisals are free. Someone can just
Abs-
call you and say, look, this is my policy. Can I get an appraisal?
That's the best way to start that out. Absolutely, it's free. There is
Okay.
no cost to this. We could have a conversation. We could see very quickly if there's something where this asset is worth something more than they think it is. We have what they call a market value projection, where we can get, within a matter of probably a week or so, we can get them an idea of where this policy would land. There is no blood work or urine or like when you're taking out a policy.
Right.
It's just, there's a few steps we'd have to go through, but nothing that's terrible. And you could be very surprised at the amount of money that you could receive for this.
Wow. Now, is the process, would you say it's quick? Is it a long process?
That's an excellent question. That's another myth that people think. I ran across someone a few weeks ago that actually thought it takes about 2 years to close this deal.
Yeah.
The average deal takes between 60 and 90 days to close.
Wow.
Right, from start to finish.
Now, does that vary by company to company, or?
It could. We have a system that we stay on, and we're very hands-on. We have a system that works very well, that we're able to get medical records, kind of quickly, and we get information that we need on point. We have a lot of people working on it, and so it speeds it up.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Now, is this restricted to Florida?
You could do anywhere in the United States. This works.
Wonderful.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
So is your company, so you're able to help anybody, anywhere
anywhere
in
you
the
could
country?
be living in New Jersey, in California. We're closing deals all over the country on this. So it's
Okay.
right. So it's
That's
not
good
restricted.
to know.
Right. And also, I want to add that years ago, and this is one of the reasons I didn't get involved in this, because I've been in this field. I've been in the insurance field for 27 years. Years ago, this wasn't it was more of the Wild West. Today, it's a very regulated industry, where over 90% of the states, you have to have a life settlement license, and it's regulated by the state insurance commissions, in these states. So it is very regulated.
What types of life policies work for life settlement?
Another good question. So basically, any type of life policy will work. A universal life, a guaranteed universal life, whole life, index universal life, and even term works as well.
Oh, wow. Term.
Right. We're working on one right now. Term works better if it's still convertible, so I don't want to get too technical with this,
Right.
but if a person, when they have a term policy, they usually have 20 years or until they reach a certain age where you can convert it to a permanent policy. But here's the best way to do this. If there's any interest in this, to take a look at what might work for you, call, speak to me. I'd be happy to answer all of your questions. There's no pressure, and we can go over it and very quickly assess if there's a way to go there, without wasting any of your time.
Okay.
And do you need a state insurance license to do this?
Yes. As mentioned before, you do need a state-approved, not only insurance license, but you need a state-approved life settlement license in the states that you're working in over 90% of the states in the country.
Now, I'm just curious, like if, let's just say a policyholder is to call you today, how does that look like? Like what, can you tell us a little bit of like how that consultation takes place or...
Sure. So after we get a few of the jokes out of the way, then we'll get to the serious conversation. So we'll find out what kind of policy. Of course, we're going to ask the person their age and how their health is presently.
Okay.
And then we're going to find out what kind of policy that they have when they took it out, what was the date of issue. Okay. And then we do need to run generally an illustration, which I or one of my people would get on the phone with the client and be able to order that from the insurance company. And usually that takes about a week to get back. And we could assess the numbers and we could see where, based on their medical situation, where this would land. Because the firm I work with has these qualified investors that they have a proprietary system where they put this out on a bidding process, and it goes through a 3-tier bidding process, and it drives the price up of the offer from these sellers, just like you'd be selling your house. If you have one buyer coming looking at your house to buy your house, you get one offer. If you have dozens and dozens and dozens of buyers coming there, they bid against each other, and it drives the price up. And I've seen this many, many, many times in the deals that we've closed. It comes out very, very attractive for the seller.
Okay.
Right.
Now, do you have to get like contracted with different companies, like your company itself?
No, there's no contract. The company I work with, Evergreen Settlements, they have the investors and they have the
Got
platform
you.
and they put it out there. They do the narrative. They know what policies these investors who are actively looking for these, by the way, that will come into play of what they're looking for. So the process goes very, very smoothly, and what's probably most important, it's fully transparent. So when I mentioned before about the 11 to 12 bids that my initial client received, every one of those bids is passed back to the client.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
they're kept in. They don't have to call and say what's happening.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. I love that. Transparency is so important. And now, one important question is, who are you representing in the life settlement transaction?
Okay. My representation is to my client, who is the seller of this policy. Okay. Usually the insured and the owner is one of the same. But when it's the seller of the policy, and that's where my fiduciary lies. And my job, as well as Evergreen's job, their fiduciary also is to the client, is to get the highest price possible for this client.
Terrific. Okay, wonderful. Well, Bob, thank you so much for being with us today
Sure.
and educating us on life settlements. Now, if anyone wants to get an appraisal, would like to learn more about life settlements, how do they reach you?
Okay. So my phone number is area code 561-251-8680. Again, that's 561-251-8680. And my email is R like Robert, Stolack, STOLACK, at senior, SENIOR, circuit, CIRCUIT, group, GROUP.com. That's a pretty long email, so remember the phone number, 561-251-8680.